Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me as always is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. We've got a great sunny day here in the Northeast, and it looks like spring is finally on the way.
Yeah, we're supposed to hit, 80 degrees on Wednesday, and it's can't believe we're already looking May in the face. So
Yeah, we had snow flurries last week. So, welcome to New England.
absolutely. And I'd like to welcome our guest who's a old friend of mine. No, I can't call him old friend, maybe a longtime networking friend of mine, Kevin Palache, but it's great to have him here today because he's young, not like me.
We're all young at heart.
That's it.
Well, welcome, Kevin. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right, absolutely. Well, I appreciate first and foremost being on your podcast on today. And Eric and Chip, and I know Chip, we've met at several years ago at networking events there in West Hartford. We know you're the networking master here in the area, as well as Eric. I know obviously Eric's been in networking for a while, but for those who haven't had an opportunity to meet in the past, again, my name is Kevin Palache, and for the most part, grew up here in Connecticut, actually in Hartford for a little while, and moved over to Bloomfield, which I've been for many years, and went to school locally as well, Bloomfield High School, and probably like a lot of folks, my parents told me about the importance of getting the education, and my father especially always emphasized that education is key. And so it was an expectation, leaving Bloomfield High School to go on to college, and actually became a first generation college student. It was 1996, graduated from Bloomfield High, and then went on to the University of Connecticut, which I actually graduated with a finance degree in 2000. And so from there, moved on to Cigna Insurance Company. Initially worked in the Bloomfield office, and they actually for a while had a location in downtown Hartford as well. And thanks to an organization called Inroads, was able to get, really training and development all throughout my college years, and, had a full-time position at Cigna, once I graduated, and, worked there for a couple of years full-time, and was introduced to a company called Legal Shield. This is back in 2003 is when I got introduced to the company. Loved the services, and, for me personally, it was actually one of my coworkers who had introduced me to the program, to get her will prepared and help with different consumer issues, and really informed me about the plan. I got the service right away, and a short time after that, I got involved on the business side and kind of launched my entrepreneurial career, with Legal Shield. So I've been involved with the company now for 17 years, full time for 16 years, being able to work from home.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
In a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot, but that's full kind of background there.
Yeah, and you've done quite well because aren't you like a regional director or whatever? I mean, you cover a lot more than just your own business.
Yeah, I'm independent associate. We're all independent associates with the company, which is why I personally made the decision to join. I wanted to have kind of the flexibility and freedom to be able to kind of set my own hours and work from home. Didn't expect that initially, probably like a lot of folks. I was like, I thought I had quote unquote made it, I was in corporate America. I was like, I have my own cubicle and everything, and so, I got, bitten by the entrepreneurial bug after reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that really opened up my eyes to entrepreneurship. And so, I started off as, the independent associate, and, became, we call it an executive director, which is basically once you reach a certain production criteria, you become an executive director. But then corporately, we have a regional director position that I have as well, specifically for the state of Connecticut, really just to kind of help to develop and grow the marketplace, whether it's, educating people about the services and helping and assisting, other independent associates in the area as well.
Yeah, and a huge part about Legal Shield and other businesses that operate this way through distributors or whatever is the personal development side of things. And I know that, with me doing send out cards all these years and so on, it's just huge to be working on yourself and being successful yourself and then sharing it with others, which is what you're doing. And obviously another nice side benefit, I know that you're married with some wonderful children, and I've seen pictures of you on Facebook from Disney World, and being able to enjoy life on your own terms while fitting in the work. That's awesome too.
Right, absolutely. And I'm sure you probably heard the saying before, the why. What hurts you. So what enables you to kind of make sure that you go and do the activity you need to do for your business to accomplish your goals, right? So for me personally, what motivates me, what keeps me going each and every single day, is absolutely my family. So our own whole mantra, even on our business, is faith, family, finance, and fitness. So all those things are so important, right? To have like a well-rounded life, to make sure it's not just, finances are great, it's great to have your business, but if your family falls apart as a result of it or as a consequence, then what was it all for, right? And then family is great. It's great to spend time with family, but if you don't have the finances to be able to take them on vacation or give them the things that they want or need, then you fall short there. So it's you all know it's a balancing act, right? Gotta make sure that you're doing what you need to do in all areas. And what I'm passionate about is the fact that we're helping people as well. So one of the mantras we have here, with Legal Shield, is that we're able to make a living while making a difference. Right. And so it's great to kind of make a living in, what we're doing, but it's all even better when we're able to make a difference in people's lives, not just financially, but with our services. One of the reasons I got involved, 17 years ago was, seeing the value of, hey, I could get my will done and help with consumer issues for $25 a month. And that, was like, really blew my mind to see how affordable it was to be able to get access to our network of attorneys. And that really is what kind of compelled me to get involved on the business side, because I knew I was going to share with other people in the community. I was on the executive board for 2 different nonprofit organizations back then and was very active. So I knew it was going to come out. So I was like, hey, why not position myself to be able to generate additional income as well?
That's fantastic. Kevin, I want to step back a little bit. When you were introducing yourself, you talked about how your parents stressed the importance of education and you were the first generation to go to college. What was that a motivator? Did that add extra stress being that first generation? How did that affect you?
Well, you know what? It was an expectation, and because it was drilled in my head since I was, from what I can remember, probably was 8, 9 years old. My parents was just college. So it was, there's a little bit of pressure there, but it was like an expectation by that point, right? And we all know the importance of affirmations and the importance of making sure that you're reinforcing the things that you want to have happen and envisioning those things. So I always had, even though I'd never gone to college, I never really knew anyone, didn't have any friends or anything like that were in college to kind of rely on to get guidance from. Didn't have any other family members that I could get guidance from. It was just kind of an expectation that you just figure it out, that type of thing. And so when I went to Bloomfield High School, I was blessed to have a great counselor that kind of helped me through that process. I got my college applications in early and was blessed enough to get a scholarship through their leadership fund to the University of Connecticut. So I did like the early enrollment there, and I got my I got the confirmation there. And I didn't even bother applying to any other school. It was just like I wanted to go to UConn, right? It's just for whatever reason, right? That was just my school of choice. And obviously, without that guidance, I had to learn about the importance of being independent. No one was waking me up in the morning to go to school and get to classes on time. But through, that organization Inroads, that was great as well, kind of learning responsibility and discipline through that organization. Back then, I wasn't as engaged in personal development. So, but yeah, that was a great question. I really had to make sure I had to stay focused and committed. And, as I kind of went through that process, found, people there that kind of helped to make me focus on getting good grades. One of my friends, who was actually I met through the process of, going to college, he was a couple years ahead of me. And, he actually mentioned, hey, whatever you do, get your highest grades possible your freshman or sophomore year. Because once you get to senior year, I don't care what you do, those grades are not going to budge. It's just a whole cumulative effect, right? And he drilled it in my head, right? I know it's hard, but, freshman, sophomore year, buckle down, get the grades. And he was Absolutely right. And luckily, I did okay. And I had I don't know what my GPA was, but I made it on Dean's List a couple of times, and maybe it was like a 3.5 or something like that. But it was decent. You had a decent GPA, but it was all because I put in that time and effort, those first couple of years. So that's the importance of getting good coaching and advice earlier on in anything, whether it's school or business.
Fantastic. So obviously, you learned to motivate yourself, you found people, and I'm sure that helped you when you got into your entrepreneurial efforts with Legal Shield.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, having that discipline up front, and the one of the major things I've always focused on is just working by a calendar. That's been everything. Anyone that knows me well knows that I'm adamant about using my calendar, right? And one of my whole philosophies is that you've got to calendar your commitment, right? So a lot of people say they're committed to something, and even John C. Maxwell, some of you know John Maxwell, he's has a ton of leadership books, but he says, look, a lot of people say that they're committed to something, but their actions indicate otherwise, right? The calendar indicates otherwise. So having that philosophy and really starting that when I was at UConn, and having that, even follow through when I was working for, Cigna Insurance Company, and then eventually when I got involved with Legal Shield, and even today, I mean, every single day, every night, I'm looking at, okay, what does my calendar look like for tomorrow? What does my calendar look like for this week? And I'm not talking about just 2 or 3 bullet points or an action list, but, literally hour by hour, breaking it down. And, one of the great things about Legal Shield, we say we have a personal development company with a compensation plan attached. And the reason being is that a lot of what is emphasized within our organization, we are, name of our kind of organization that we're part of, Team New Vision, that, has that foundation of faith, family, and finances and fitness. We have even a book of the month, right? So every single month we've got a book or an audio that we're listening to or we're reading. And now it's an ingrained part of me where it's just natural that I'm always listening to an audio or reading a book. And that was instilled really because of this company. To be honest with you, when I left UConn, I was like, I never want to see another book, right? Because every book I read was associated with just studying for exams and studying for exams and studying. So there's this negative correlation or this negative feeling towards, just reading. And it wasn't until, again, and it's just in points of associations, when I was even working at Cigna, that some of my coworkers, they were reading that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it was that positive peer pressure, right? Usually we hear peer pressure, we think is negative. But because almost every lunch break, they're talking about, here's what I learned from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and here's why you need to have a business, and I felt left out. So I was like, man, let me pick up this book, to see all the hypes about, and I was just blown away by that, So started reading books like that, and Who Moved My Cheese, right? By Spencer Johnson. So and that kind of started my personal development journey really independently. Was by those positive associations.
Yeah, we've talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad on previous episodes of this podcast. What was the message in there that really affected you? What was it about that book that motivated you?
Well, it's the education that, you can build wealth and be successful without working a job, right? And kind of help me through that story, right? Help me to kind of fast forward in life, and help me understand, will I be where I want to be just by working at the job? And one of the major things that he talks about in there is the importance of having, passive and residual income. And then I realized at my job, man, if something happens here, it's zero. I'm going down to zero. And so that one thing, opened my eyes. That was number one. Understanding that, I needed to get involved with something that had passive and residual income. And so it was a combination of that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, with this follow book. And I don't know which one was written first, actually. Just the second one I read was Cash Flow Quadrant. And that really broke it down, because then I was like, wait a second, I'm in the E quadrant, right? So if you know the different quadrants, you got the E quadrant, the S quadrant, the B quadrant, and the I quadrant, right? So the employee and the self-employed, and even they're learning the difference, right? Because I thought, okay, if you have a storefront, then you're a business owner, right? And he clarified, no, depending on the type of business, that quote unquote business that you created, you might be self-employed. If you do tax preparation and there's no leverage, you have no employees, then you went from having a job to owning your job. right? And then he talked about, the B quadrant, where if you have in the B quadrant, well, you have maybe an organization, you have a team, you have employees where if something happens to you, you disappear for a year, right? You have the ability for that business to continue to go with or without you. And then when you ultimately you want to get to that I quadrant where you have income that's flowing in from your business that you just invested, whether it's in stocks or real estate, wherever the case may be. And so, man, that was just eye opening. I didn't learn that lesson anywhere, right? That was I learned that after graduating from college, right? Like I learned, that mindset, and it just completely opened my eyes up to what was possible, right? And to be honest with you, if I had not read that book, and you see, just like you mentioned, you'll see that common theme among a lot of people that they refer back to that book because for me, prior to reading that book, I just thought, I'm just going to climb this corporate ladder. I'm going to be CEO one day or, manager one day or whatever. I mean, I didn't know anything else, right? So, so I couldn't shoot for it. I couldn't go any other direction other than what I knew. So it just kind of, for me, emphasized the importance of making sure that you're engaged in personal development. It's great to go to school and take all your classes and all that, but the most important form of education is self-education.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first joined Send Out Cards, obviously that's based upon gratitude, and that's what they drilled into. But the bottom line is, you can't give the best of yourself unless you look and develop the best of yourself, and that's what personal development is all about. So, I mean, obviously, things like affirmations and personal development are key. And your story and mine are the same as far as once we got involved with that kind of stuff, I started listening to personal development things in my car and everything else. And I've kind of developed my brand as a result of doing that because I really love doing it. But you've been so organized through the years, and obviously to be successful in a business like you're in, you have to sponsor people and share it with people. And you've used networking as a huge, wonderful tool for doing that. And what companies like Send Out Cards and Legal Shield teach you to do is the presentation and get together and share it with people. And you came up with a very great way of doing this just by getting involved with the Bloomfield Chamber and starting to run your monthly meetings where you'll have a guest speaker feature some business subject or whatever is good for the room. You give people the opportunities to introduce themselves to each other, and then you do a brief intro for Legal Shield, which is sponsoring the whole thing, which I think is just a brilliant way to do things, and I'm sure that that's helped you out a lot with your success. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with that one. I'm sure the company probably encouraged having meetings to introduce people to that, but that's just a great thing you got going there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been going for well over a decade now that we've been doing those kind of like breakfast networking events. And the history of that actually started with, some of you might be familiar with Fran Tarkenton.
Yep.
And I'm not like a football fanatic or anything like that, but just, he actually at one point had this, business relationship with Legal Shield, where they call it Breakfast with Fran. And it was Fran Tarkenton, and it was like a live stream. Actually, he was virtual before virtual was cool, right? And so what used to happen is that Fran Tarkenton would actually, in association with Legal Shield, would actually interview different business owners every month, right? And so these are people known on like a national stage, right? Maybe they work for Coca-Cola, right? Or another large organization. And they would have like these different topics, like a TED Talk they would do for 20 minutes. They'll talk about what they're talking about. And then, we'll gather together in a room. So not only myself, but any small business owners in the area to hear from Fran Tarkenton interview, whoever he was interviewing for that particular month. And so when they stopped doing that live stream format, we have the option of just either, stopping altogether or kind of doing something on our own. And I was like, you know what? It's a great idea. I love this, the educational piece. For me, it's always been the educational piece. If there's something I can learn, I'm all about it. And so what I decided to do is just, instead of, having a live stream, why not have a local small business owner come in and talk to, other local business owners about, and not just to kind of sell what they're doing, but maybe do something educational. So maybe they do social media for their business, but, what are the top 3 reasons why you need to use social media for your business? And so we've had people come in and talk about that, to talk about networking online, especially with the, in current times, how to utilize the technology. I know both of you have been on, in person at the event, and now obviously virtual via Zoom. And so that's been really awesome, for me to be able to learn, right? So I look at it, number one, am I learning, or are people who are attending learning something from the presenter, and then people get an opportunity to share information about their businesses. I share for about 2 minutes some information about Legal Shield, and for people who have small businesses or want to offer it as an employee benefit, they know that it's an option. But yeah, it's just been great. I mean, I look at it, I put it really, to be honest, in my volunteer category. It takes some work. You guys do podcasts, so it takes some work to kind of put together those events. But I get joy out of, people making connections and, whoever, kind of have hosting that particular month as a guest speaker, them being able to get their name out to more people in the community as well.
Yeah, one of the neat things, I knew about Legal Shield, a long time ago, as far as basically a one-stop source for all your legal needs and whatever. But I think when I first saw your presentation, whatever, the thing that you got going for you that's above and beyond with that is your member perks program, which is all kinds of discounts for different places. And I know basically the way that your service runs, it's like a monthly fee and that kind of thing. But I know that basically you've saved a whole lot of money and gone a whole lot of places just by using the member perks program too. So why don't you just outline that a little bit too? Because I think a lot of people out there probably understand what Legal Shield concept is about, but you wouldn't associate member perks with that.
Yeah, it's actually a cool benefit that they added, a while ago to the organization. They partnered up with an organization called PerkSpot that typically only offers this benefit to like huge companies. And so what they decided to do is kind of design a program to benefit our Legal Shield, and obviously we have our identity theft protection, with our ID Shield membership as well. And so to give our members the ability to get all these cool discounts, that now it's actually over 400 companies where we get discounts as Legal Shield members. So I've personally used it a couple times a year, right? You'll be able to get access to all these different benefits and discounts. And I usually learn more from a lot of my members who come to me like, Kevin, I saved X amount. Like I had someone who, I think it was like a Sam's Club or Costco, one of those, group clubs discounts. Like they got a discount on their membership there. I personally used it for, enterprise rent-a-car, getting discounts in rental vehicles. One of our members, she actually seriously saved about $300 in a week between her discount that she got at a hotel as well as from car rental. I've used it like Verizon Wireless, gives 8% off the monthly bill. And so we get all these different 1-800-Flowers, right, as another that comes to mind. So it's a lot of cool benefits. So usually what we find is that a lot of our members basically pay for their service just based on the discounts that they're able to receive from their benefit, right? There are some people who literally would be basically losing money if they didn't have the service just based on what they're saving on stuff that they're buying anyway. So that was a great idea and a very, I see on a great benefit for us as members to be able to get access to those discounts. There's even like discounts there for supermarkets. So if you're at a supermarket and you want to purchase items there, grocery discounts, they're also available there as well for coupons. So yeah, they keep adding, new benefits all the time to that.
That's great. And you had mentioned, Legal Shield is all independent associates. So you're really running your own business, even though you're affiliated with this larger group. So how did you adapt to doing that? I mean, you said you were interested in setting your own hours and all this. How did you adapt to becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, and it's funny when you mentioned the kind of the model that we have, it very closely ties to that Rich Dad Poor Dad again, right? Because one of the things it talked about in there was franchising, right? And he talked about how his rich dad was looking at this franchising opportunity, and I don't know if it was like a McDonald's or something like that, but people were skeptical. They're like, "What is that? That doesn't sound right." But his rich dad, did the research, right, and got involved and made a lot of money on it, right? Now it's a common thing that, people are involved with franchises. So I actually looked at it the same way. So when I saw this opportunity, I'm like, wow, this is like a franchise, right? So I'm investing a small amount, right, to become part of a huge company, right? This is, we're $500 million a year company, right? And so, but I don't have to worry about employees or anything like that. And so for me, it's being involved with a turnkey system. So if you start at McDonald's, you start at Burger King, you start at Subway, you start at Panera Bread, right? You're not going to be left out there to figure it out on your own, right? They've got systems that they already have in place that have been proven to be successful in other marketplaces. And all you have to do is follow directions. All you have to do, right, is make sure that you follow the steps that they outline so you can have the same success that other people have, other owners of that particular franchise and other locations. So our model works the same exact way where, look, we have a proven system. The company's been around now for actually next year, we'll be celebrating 50 years that Legal Shield has been in existence. So someone has probably figured something out, right? And I've already had success. And so literally all we have to do is follow direct. And I've always been good. I mean, I've always had the belief that someone else has been successful in something and they're willing to take the time to teach me, to coach me, then I can have the same, if not better, success. And that's what we have here. We have really a built-in leadership. We have a built-in coaching program that's in place. And coaching is so important, right? In anyone, in any business. And so what's good is that inherent in our business is that you have immediate access as a new associate to a team of other people who've been involved longer than you have, right? So when I got involved, there were people already been involved for 10, 15, 20 years that were part of my direct support team that I could just literally pick up the phone and say, look, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do now? What's the training for? Like, so literally all that is given to us as a brand new associate. We get it day one, and it's a turnkey system. All we have to do is follow directions. And the key thing, just to be consistent with, good with anything or successful with anything, is consistency, right? So it's great to kind of have the systems, but if you're not consistent with it, you're not going to have success long term, right? So that's really what helped me to kind of make that transition, is knowing that there was already a system in place, so I didn't have to figure out really anything from scratch.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really the core of any franchise, is that you've got the system in place, you follow the directions, and as you said, consistency, keep plugging away at it. It's so important. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. That's what we see. And, we compare it to, any other industry, right? So you have so many people now. Real estate is hot, right? So everyone wants to be a real estate agent. But guess what? If you're not consistent, it doesn't matter, right? If you go through the process, right? How many of us know a real estate agent that they got their license and all that, but they never sold a house, right? Because they're on to the next thing. And so the same thing here with Legal Shield, the same thing with any organization, is that you've got to have a vision for what you want to accomplish, and you've got to stick to it until you're done, right? There's a great quote that I like using all the time by a gentleman by the name of Josh Billings, and he said, be like a postage stamp. Stick to one thing until you get there. Right. So be like a postage stamp, stick to one thing until you get there. Right. So there's so many people that are just doing a million different things. It's like, no, pick one thing that you really enjoy, that you really think is going to benefit yourself, that's going to benefit people in the community, that you love doing. Right. And stick to that one thing until you achieve that ultimate goal that you're looking to achieve in your business or your organization.
Excellent. All right. We're just about at the end of our time. So, Kevin, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, get more information on Legal Shield, how can they do so?
Yeah, two ways. Obviously you can reach out to me directly. My website is actually, two ways. My name, Kevin Palache, Palache, kevinpalache.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And then my familyrightsplan.com actually goes directly. It's a URL that links directly to my Legal Shield corporate page. So www.familyrightsplan.com. And that goes right to the information on the Legal Shield services and our business as well.
Excellent. And Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
Kevin, I loved your last analogy of the postage stamp, sticking to one thing until you achieve your goal. And you've given us several examples of how you did that, just going from high school to college into the work world, and then trying out Legal Shield and making a career out of it with your vision of the family driving the whole thing and helping other people out. So it's a wonderful, inspirational conversation that we've just had today. And, congratulations on what you're doing, and keep on keeping on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on today. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been great having you. I think for me, the big takeaways are two words that you kept using were commitment and consistency. And I think that's so important, because there's so many people who they jump at the next shiny object and they never get to their goals because they're always shifting from one thing to another. You need to make the commitment. You need to be consistent. I think that's a great lesson for our listeners. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.